Hi, welcome to Budget MTG Decks. All magic fun, all cards under $1. I'm David.
I'm Stefan.
And today we're going to be looking at all the white cards in Hour of Devastation.
So we're going to evaluate them for limited, like draft or sealed. Sealed like a pre-release, which will happen soon, and you will get 4 packs of Hour of Devastation and 2 packs of Amonkhet.
Exactly, and we already reviewed all the cards in Amonkhet, so click on the card on your screen right now if you want to have a look at those cards. What's also important is that we're going to be reviewing all these cards according to our own 3-tiered system. Tier 1, these are your bombs, unconditional removal. These are the cards that are going to be winning you the game. If you pull one of these cards, you're going to be pushed really hard into that color. Tier 2, those are really strong colors. Auto-include if you're already in that color. If you got a couple of these, it pushes you into that color. And Tier 3, these are your filler cards. Make sure your mana curve is proper. So if you're still missing a 2-drop or a 3-drop, then you're going to be looking at these Tier 3 cards. All the other cards are either too situational or just not good enough. So we're going to put those aside. Also important to remember is that this set is going to have Masterpiece series, and in Hour of Devastation, these are called invocations.
Yeah, they're super rare, and they'll actually be the last set they'll be in, like, regularly. So they will come back, but we won't know when.
Exactly, and it's very important to remember that even though these are not standard legal to play in, unless they're of course already standard legal, you can play with them if you open them during your pre-release or during your draft or any other limited format. So that is the introduction part. Let's get started with all the common white cards. The first of our white common cards is God Pharaoh's Faithful. For 1 white, we get a 0/4 human wizard, and this guy states that whenever you cast a blue, black, or red spell, we're going to be gaining 1 life. Okay, first of all, we don't really like 0/4, 0/3, 0/5s. We don't really like the walls because they don't allow you to win the game. They just slow your death down a little bit, I guess. And the fact that you're gaining a little bit of incidental life is just too situational. I say it's really, really bad. Put it aside.
Yeah, next one, Act of Heroism. 1 on the right is an instant. On top target creature, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn, and can block an additional creature this turn. So it untaps, and we have exert, and we have some more exert in Amonkhet, so that's really nice. So it does that. Plus it's a surprise when it untaps. It's a +2/+2, which for 2 mana is good already, and it can block an additional creature this turn. So it does so many things, and everything we want in a combat trick we have.
Yeah.
So it's a really good filler because it's still not tier 2, because it's still not really unconditional removal, it's still a combat trick.
Yeah, it's still not even semi-conditional removal, it's still just a combat trick.
Yeah.
Exert, for those of you who didn't follow, is you can exert a creature and then it does something extra, but then it doesn't untap in its controller's next untap phase, so you kind of got to skip a turn with it. But of course, if you just untap it with something else, such as Act of Heroism, then you can still use it again next turn, which is super sweet. Magical Christmas Land is you attack with your exerted creature, you do an extra ability, then in their turn they attack you with, let's say it was a 2/2 you're thinking, then they attack with 2 2/2s of their own. They think they can just get all the damage in, you untap that creature, it becomes a 4/4, and you block both of them, and they lose 2 of those creatures, and well, you also lose your creature, but still, that would be a really awesome swing to do that.
Yeah, and if you didn't know what exert is, look at our Amonkhet review.
Yes, the button was before, so you can't press it. Yeah, you can still press it.
Yeah, go back.
Alright, so the next card is Jiro's Renunciation. For 1 and a white, it's an instant. We're going to tap up to 2 target creatures. It also has cycling for 1. Now, cycling states that we can discard this card and draw a card. Cycling is very handy for if we really don't want to use that card at that time and get a different card. This card, however, by itself is not good enough. I think just tapping 2 target creatures tempo, but it doesn't really change the board state in any meaningful way, so we're going to put that card aside.
Yeah, it's only good, I think, when you really need the last couple damage, but then maybe something else is just better.
Yeah.
Mummy Paramount. 1 on the right, it's a 2/2 zombie, and when another zombie enters the battlefield under your control, Mummy Paramount gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So it's a 2/2 for 2 with upside, so that's already a good filler. So tier 3.
Yeah, exactly. If it would have gotten a counter, then it would have been tier 2.
Yeah,
then it would have been
but
tier 2.
it doesn't.
But it doesn't, so it's still tier 3. Oketra's Avenger is next. For 1 and a white, we get a 3/1 human warrior. We already established that for 2 mana, a 3/1. I like that. Stefan doesn't like it as much, so you're gonna have to make your own judgment on that. I like this power and toughness for this mana cost, but it's got another ability. Additionally, you may exert Oketra's Avenger as it attacks, and when you do, prevent combat damage that will be dealt to it this turn. So that means that actually this is much better than just a 3-1 because late game it's going to be indestructible for one time, pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's going to be hard to block and it's going to be hard to kill. So I would probably always play it as a filler, but it's just not good enough to be tier 2. So I'm going to say just a good tier 3, high on the tier 3 scale.
You know what will always block him?
What?
Block her?
Yeah.
The Godfather is Faithful.
Yeah, don't listen to Stefan.
Disposal Mummy, 2 and a white, a 2/3 zombie jackal. And when Disposal Mummy enters the battlefield, exile target card from opponent's graveyard. Which is pretty nice because you have Amonkhet and you have Hour of Devastation, and there are some things that work with the graveyard. Yeah. So it's really nice to get things out of the graveyard.
Embalm and Eternalize.
Exactly.
So we do like, it also hits, it doesn't just hit those cards, it hits any card.
Yeah, any card.
So that's pretty sweet. And of course, a 2/3 for 3 mana is already a fine filler. So
yeah.
Even if you don't have a target, just play it anyway.
Yeah, it's a good tier 3 and it's just decent enough for the cost and it has upside, so.
Good. Dauntless Aven is next for 2 and a white. So for 3 mana, we get a 2/1 Bird Warrior. This guy's got flying, and additionally, when this guy attacks, untap target creature you control. Okay, this is actually really, really good. We're gonna put this in tier 2 because for 3 mana, 2 power in the air is going to be uncontested for quite a while, so you're going to be able to do a lot of damage. The evasion is really solid, and additionally, every time it attacks, you don't have to exert. A lot of times with these kind of cards, you're going to have to exert your creature. Not this one. This one, whenever it attacks, we're going to untap a creature we control. So if it attacks with 2 things, we're going to give one thing Vigilance, essentially, or maybe something that taps for another ability. We can use it again. Really, really sweet. I think this card is going to do a lot of work.
Yeah, especially with exerted creatures, you can untap them again. So that's nice. Solitary Camel, 2 and a white, it's a 3/2 camel. And solitary camels have lightning as long as you control a desert or there's a desert card in your graveyard. So it's a 3/2 for 3, which is pretty decent, and it's already a filler, and it might have lifelink, but yeah, it might have lifelink, so just tier 3.
Yeah. You may ask yourself, okay, how often are we going to be able to have that clause, the desert clause? There's quite a lot of deserts in this set, and there are a lot of them are in common level as well, so I do see yourself being able to get 1 or 2 deserts. I wouldn't build around it, don't think that's possible. Remember that you can also cycle away a lot of these deserts and get them in the graveyard pretty easily that way. So I do think it's actually a realistic possibility that at some point in time in the game, this thing will have lifelink, but it's a little bit unreliable, so that's why it doesn't push it up a little bit higher. And even if it would have lifelink, then it still wouldn't be tier 2. Anyway, Sandblast is next for 2 and a white. It's an instant. Sandblast deals 5 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. Now this is super, super strong. This will kill everything. This will kill all those eternalized creatures. This will kill those annoying flyers. This will kill all the good stuff. This is definitely tier 2. And we haven't mentioned what Eternalize is yet, I realize, so we may want to explain what that is. Eternalize, a creature with Eternalize, we can exile it from our graveyard. If it has Eternalize, we pay the cost, and then it comes, we put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 4/4, and it has all the abilities you used to have. It has the creature types, and it's also a zombie on top of that. It's important to remember in this set that we're going to have a lot more 4/4s than you may think because of the Eternalize mechanic.
Exactly. So the first Eternalize card, Steadfast Sentinel. 3 and a white, a 2/3 human cleric with vigilance. And Eternalize cost is 4 and 2 white. So it's a 2/3 with vigilance for 4 mana, which I don't really like, but after it dies and when she comes back for 6 mana, it's a 4/4 with vigilance. And then I think that's actually pretty good.
Yeah. I think it's just a bit too expensive though for me to push it into tier 2. It's a good filler because it's just less than what we'd like to do in each state of the game, but it does it 2 times. So that brings it back a little bit into playable territory. And Vigilance is one of the least interesting abilities that you can throw on one of these creatures. So yeah, it's filler, just filler.
Yeah, it is.
Next one, Dutiful Servants for 3 and a white. So for 4 mana, we get a 2/5 vanilla. Now that 5 but is really big, and it's got 2 power, which means it's going to be able to kill those bears, it's going to be able to kill those 2-drops, it's going to be able to kill those 3/2s, it's going to be able to kill a lot of stuff. It's super hard to attack into because even the Eternalized creatures are going to be 4/4s. Won't be able to push through this thing. I think it's a solid filler card, tier 3. I'm very happy to play this card.
Yeah, I always like my X5s because it's just like can block so many things, and
So
if
much,
it has
yeah.
some power, it just can also kill things, which is also really nice.
Yeah, and 2 of these is not bad, because then also you can double block those eternalized things. It's impossible for them to get through. Then they're going to need something like our next card.
Yeah, Haven of Enduring Hope, 4 and a white, a 3/3 bird cleric with flying. And when Haven of Enduring Hope enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. So the 3 life, not that relevant, but 5 mana, 3/3 with flying, that's pretty good. It's still pretty steep for 3 power, but I mean, it's still tier 3, because flying and 3 power is pretty good.
Always a good filler. The evasion
Yeah.
is decent. There's if it would have had any other ability, then it probably would have pushed it into tier 2 territory, but this just is a little bit overcosted. That is the last of the common cards. Let's have a look at the uncommons.
So the first uncommon is Gideon's Defeat. It's a white instant. Exile target white creature that's attacking or blocking. If it was a Gideon Planeswalker, you gain 5 life. So,
Where do we begin?
I mean, if you play against a white deck, so you can board it in, but
No.
well, you can actually.
No, I'm saying yes. Yes, you can, but this is a typical example of a put aside card.
Yeah,
because it's so situational, you know, just don't play it. Unless, of course, somebody's playing the Gideon Planeswalker and it's heavy and white, and then of course you can sideboard it. But don't put it in your main deck, right?
Don't put it in your main
We're
deck.
already spending way too much time on this card. Next, Steward of Solidarity for 1 and a white. So for 2, we get a 2/2 for 2 Human Warrior. That's on curve. That's a filler right there. This is fine. Additionally, we can tap it and exert it, and then we get to create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with Vigilance. Pretty cool, actually. So it's already on curve. But is it good enough to be able to create a 1/1 every other turn? I don't think that's enough to really push it into tier 2 territory. It's a fine filler. Later on, it can make you a token to chump block with. It could chump block itself, of course. It can chump block with this one and then make a token which you can chump block the next turn again. So actually, it's a pretty decent filler. Better than just regular 2/2, obviously.
Exactly, it's better than a regular 2/2, but not by much.
No. So high tier 3.
Yeah. So maybe this is my saving grace.
Perhaps. We'll see.
I don't think so, but 1 and a white, Enchantment Hour. It has flash, enchanted creature you control, and when saving grace enters the battlefield, all damage that will be dealt this turn to you and permanent you control is dealt to enchanted creature instead. Yeah, and enchanted creature gets +0, +3.
Okay, so yeah, do you want to say that it sucks, or I'm just gonna say it sucks? You're probably gonna agree with me. I think this is this card where you think to yourself, this is a typical trap card. I'm gonna put this aside. It's a typical kind of card where you think to yourself, okay, good, they're gonna attack me, and then I'm gonna put it on one of my creatures, then I'm gonna block with the other creatures, then that thing is gonna that creature's gonna die, or maybe not because it's got enough toughness now, and then I'm gonna be able to kill the other things. They're not gonna take any damage. Magical, it's awesome. But I think usually what's going to happen is that you're not going to have the right target. You're going to be able to put it on a thing. All it is going to get extra tough. It was going to die anyway. You can't block properly. It's just. I think it's going to do more harm than good to include this in your deck.
Yeah, I think you have to have like multiple creatures and stuff like that to actually do something. So in the end, it just isn't what I hope it is.
Just play a combat trick that boosts your power and toughness.
I really want that saving grace to be my saving grace.
I know, but it's not going to be. Alright, Sunscourge Champion is next for 2 and a white. So for 3 mana, we get a 2/3 Human Wizard. Okay, that's already on par. That's already a decent filler. Then when this guy enters the battlefield, you gain life equal to its power. Okay, a little bonus, an extra 2 life. You know, nothing to write home about. A little incidental life gain is fine, but doesn't bump anything from any tier to any other tier. But it also has Eternalize for 4. Now this is extremely cheap. That means that when this guy's died the first time, we're going to be able to pay 4 mana, get a 4/4 that also gains us 4 life. So in essence, this card is going to be gaining us 6 life, and it's going to give us a 2/3 and a 4/4. Now that is really, really strong, and that puts it miles above the other Eternalized card we saw. And that's why we're going to call this, put this into the tier 2 category.
Exactly. The 4 mana Eternalize is so good because 4 mana 4/4. You don't really also have that in white because it's a smaller color, and so 4 mana 4/4 is so great.
Yeah, green might have it, but then it won't get the 4 life when it comes in.
Exactly.
On top of that. So think about it. You play this on turn 3, it's going to stop all those 2/2s. They're going to be like, ah, okay, they just played a 2/2, now you play a 2/3. They're not going to be able to tag with it. Later on, you will be able to kill it somehow because they're going to be attacking, or you just attack them and they don't belong. Okay, fine, you're dealing damage. And then when it dies, they got a headache because you're paying 4 mana next turn, and you got a 4/4. Nasty.
And 4 life.
And 4 life. 6 life together is kind of buying you a turn almost. About. Right? 6, 7 life is about a turn, so it's actually really, really strong. Next card, Unconventional Tactics for 2 and a white. We get a sorcery. Target creature gets +3/+3 and gains flying until end of turn. And additionally, when a zombie enters the battlefield under your control, we can pay a white, and then we're going to return this thing from our graveyard back to our hand. So we're going to be able to reuse it. You may think, wait a second, +3, that's a lot, or +3/+3 is a lot, flying is a lot. But remember, it's got that sorcery, and we want our combat tricks to be instant speed, because those are not combat tricks. Otherwise, it's just a way to push a little bit of extra damage through. And to be able to do an extra 3 damage, it's just not worth the card. And it doesn't come back every turn. It's not reliable. Just put it aside. I think it's going to do way less than you hope.
Yeah, because you also just need to have a zombie. Yeah. So, how many times we have a zombie? Not that many, so yeah. And especially you have to have this in the graveyard, a zombie, they have the mana, so it's
just an extra 3 damage one time is not enough.
Yeah. So Desert's Hold, 2 and a white, our enchant creature, when Desert's Hold enters the battlefield, if you control a desert, or is desert in your card in your graveyard, you gain 3 life. All the life gain. And an enchanted creature can't attack or block, and its activate ability cannot be activated. So it's a pacifism with a bit of upside for 3 mana. You know, it's a tier 2 because it's removal.
You make it you make it sound so it's okay. This is really strong. Man, in white for 3 mana, this pacifism effect, also the abilities can't be used. It's so incredibly powerful because it shuts down their best thing and they're not getting it back. They can't eternalize it because it's not going into the graveyard. They can't recur it in any other way. It is super strong. Pick it extremely highly. If you're in white, or if you got a couple of these, yeah, then you got to go into white.
Exactly.
It's so powerful.
It's still a conditional removal, so it's tier 2. It's really great.
Really strong.
Yeah.
Next card, Vizier of the True for 3 and a white. So for 4 mana, we get a 3/2 human cleric. That kind of power and toughness for this mana, I'm not too excited about. Let's see what else it's got. You may exert this guy as it attacks. Okay, fine. And then it says whenever you exert a creature, tap target creature an opponent controls. Okay. If it would be a 2/3 for 4 mana that taps a creature you control every time it attacks, I'd say yes, good. That's a fine filler. I would play that. The problem is you have to exert this guy, or you gotta have other exert creatures, and of course they don't untap, so you can only do it every other turn. And I just don't think that's gonna pull its weight for the 4 mana and the card investment. I say put this card aside.
Yeah, it's just all the cost of him, the cost of what he does. It's just too much.
Yeah, you're paying too much. Yeah.
Angel of the God Pharaoh. 4 and 2 white. It's a 4/4 angel with flying and it's cycling for 2. So 6 mana 4/4 flying, it's great. It will not be blocked anyway. So yeah, tier 2. Play it.
Very strong. The fact that it's got cycling 2 as well, for if on turn 2 you got nothing to do, you got this thing in your hand, you got 3 lands, you may think, okay, I'm not gonna be able to get to this thing anytime soon. You can cycle it away and draw another card, and that is also not to be underestimated. Very nice. I would always play this as in white. Yeah. Those are the uncommons. Let's have a look at the rares. The first of our rare cards is Adorned Pouncer for 1 and a white. So for 2 mana, we get a 1/1 cat with double strike. Okay, so that's okay. That's on curve. For 2 mana, it's going to trade with other 2/2s. It's got the double strike. That's fine. Nothing to write home about. So far, just a tier 3 filler card. It also has Eternalize for 5 or for 3 and 2 white, which means that it's going to come back as a 4/4 double striker. Now that is insane. That is super strong. If that thing hits the battlefield, it's probably going to be winning you the game, right? Because it's going to be, if it's uncontested, it's going to be doing 8 damage per turn, and it's super hard to block because other Eternalize things are going to die to it because it's first going to do first strike, then it's normal damage. You would think that this would be tier 1, but Stefan, we discussed it. Why is it tier 2 and not tier 1?
Because if you get this card, it's like okay, late game, I have a 2 mana 1/1, the double strike. It doesn't actually do anything, so it has to die before next turn, or whenever it dies, he will get a 5 mana 4/4 with double strike. So it has to die first for you able to do anything with it. and if the person has like evasion or whatever, it doesn't really die. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I think if somebody playing this against me, I would probably late game just let it come through for the 2 damage every turn and make sure that it doesn't die. So yeah, so tier 2 still very strong though. Would be nice if it had cycle. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, but
it does
like
not.
we said, yeah, you could also have trample. It could also have flying.
That would be
also have unblockable.
Ooh, that would be sweet. All right,
no,
next.
because then it wouldn't really die.
Oh, you're right. That's true. Okay, next card, Solemnity for 2 and a white. So for 3 mana, it's an enchantment. It states players can't get counters. And counters can be put on artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or lands. So these are these 2 sets, of course, care about -1/-1 counters. So those don't work anymore. It's pretty sweet if you play this white in combination with black, of course. So you can get a lot of stuff that won't put -1/-1 counters on your own creatures anymore, which is pretty sweet.
Black also has removal with -1/-1 counters.
That's true, and then that's not very good anymore. Basically, you need to really build this a deck around this card. So that's better for constructed, not really limited. Put it aside.
Yeah, in limited it won't actually do anything. So that's the reason why.
Yeah, but constructed, awesome. Commander, great.
Yeah, true. Oketra's Last Mercy. It's 1 and 2 white, it's a sorcery. Your life total becomes equal to your starting life total, and lands you control don't untap until your next you're doing your tap step. I can talk. So it's really nice because when you're down low and then you play this for 3 mana, you get so many life, it does so many turns, because you said like 7 life is around a turn, so you get like 2 turns at least. But the thing is, to
give up a turn.
To able to do something, you actually have to, for this card to be doing anything, you have to be losing to begin with.
Yeah.
And then if you're losing already and then suddenly you get this card, it's like, oh, I get this card just when I'm losing, you're still not winning.
No.
And if you have it in the beginning, it won't do anything.
No. So basically, when you're winning, it doesn't do anything. When you're a parity, it's not doing anything. And then when you're losing, it does something. But what it does doesn't actually turn it from losing to winning.
Yeah.
So that's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible. Okay, because you started, it's pretty nice what it does. You started with it's pretty nice what it does, but actually it's pretty terrible what it does.
Yeah.
Put it aside, don't be trapped into this card.
Exactly, because that's the thing with these kind of cards. It's like, it sounds really nice, but when you think about it, like the only thing it does something is when you're losing.
Yeah, and it doesn't change the board state. So if you were losing, now you're still losing. You're just not dead next turn, but you're still losing.
You're just losing
and
slower.
They played something in that turn that you lost. Yeah. So then you're losing even faster. Terrible. All right. Next card, we have Angel of Condemnation for 2 and 2 white. So for 4 mana, we get a 3/3 flyer with Vigilance. That is a really good deal already. That's already tier 2 right there. Super sweet. Then it also has additional abilities. For 2 and a white, we can tap it and then exile target creature and then return that card to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. Okay, so we get to flicker something. That's cool. Our own stuff enter the battlefield. When something targets one of our creatures, it could do it. It could do it to any of the other creatures. Can't do it to itself. To protect it against spot removal or even against board wipes, because at the end of the next end step. Super versatile. Additionally, for 2 and a white, it can also tap, and then we have to exert it. So we can only do that once every other turn. But then we're going to be able to exile another target creature until this guy leaves the battlefield, which is basically like an Oblivion Ring. We're just going to get rid of that thing. Super strong. So many points in time in the game that this is versatile. The fact that it can attack with it, and then you can still use its abilities because it's got the Vigilance. Super power. I can't say super enough. It's awesome tier 1.
Exactly, and if you like enchant it with the pacifism we just got, then it still won't get your creatures back.
No, you have to kill it to be able to get that creature back. Yeah.
So the next one, Jerry with Eyes Open, 3 and 2 white. It's a 4/3 human warrior with Vigilance, and when he enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a Planeswalker card and put it in your hand and shuffle your library. And if a source would deal damage to a Planeswalker you control, prevent 1 of that damage. That is actually really cool.
No, Stefan, it's actually terrible because you're never going to be getting your plane. There's going to be very little Planeswalkers, and additionally, what Planeswalker are you going to be preventing the damage to? You got to have both of these cards. And on top of that, for 5 mana at 4/3, is that any good?
No.
No, it's not very good.
No.
So, would you play it?
Yes?
No!
Oh,
no! You wouldn't play it! No,
don't play it!
Jero with Eyes Open is a terrible card. It seems like it's a lot of power and toughness. The Visions may seem like a nice little bonus, but in the end, remember that this 4/3 is going to trade with 2 mana creatures, the 3 ones, for example.
The 3 ones, the 3 2s, and that's what I don't like about the 3 toughness creatures, because it's like 2 mana, 3 mana creatures you can just like throw in front of it, because it just isn't enough, that 3 toughness for such a big costed creature. Very mediocre, unfortunately. Next, and that is the last of our rares, and that is Hour of Revelation for 3 and 3 white. So for 6 mana, we're going to be able to destroy all non-land permanents. That is amazing. Board wipes are also incredibly powerful. You may think it's also killing your stuff, but remember, you're playing this when you want to play, when it's most beneficial to you. So it's incredibly powerful. And additionally, it's going to cost 3 mana less if there's 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield. So if you got 5 and they got 5, then that's 10 right there. Probably just going to play it for 6. Good enough. Very powerful. Tier 1, I would always play it, because this is going to be an incredible surprise to your opponents. Yeah, board wipes are always just so nice, and it does so much, because you can, like you said, you can play it whenever you want. So if you're winning, no, don't play it. If you're losing, oh, you know what, just blow it up, play a big fatty, and then go on. Yeah, and they're gonna have lost all that stuff, especially when you draw it early. This is one of those cards that is you play it late, but you like to have it early too, because early you see and you're like, okay, I'm gonna play around this. They're gonna start putting creature. You put 1 creature to maybe show a little bit of threat. They put more and more creatures. They empty their hand, and you're like, bam, and I still got all the cards in my hand. Exactly. Super sweet. Those are the rares. Let's have a look at the mythics. So the first mythic is Quested Sunmare. It's 3 and 2 white. It's a 5/5 horse, and all the horses you control have indestructible. So how many horses are there? Not really that many, but they found something for it. At the beginning of your end step, if you have gained life this turn, create a 5/5 white horse creature token. So it's a 5/5 horse for 5. It's already good, because it can block all the internalize, and that's already great. But then it creates horses on their own, and they're indestructible. And every single upkeep, so my upkeep, your upkeep, end step, sorry. My end step, your end step. And the thing is, you have to gain life, and we saw a lot of incidental life gain in this this color. So that's actually really good. Tier 1, if I see this, I want to play white. I want to play some of those incidental life gain things. Because you don't have to gain 4 life or more, for example. It's really just any life. So already that creature that comes in and gains you 2 life, that's already good enough. That's a 5/5 indestructible horse. The flyer that comes and gives you 3 life, that's a 5/5 indestructible horse. I think it's unrealistic to think that you're going to be gaining 2 5/5s per round, because you're not. I don't think you're going to be gaining life in your opponent's turns. I think that's very unrealistic. I think you're going to be getting the lifelings. Yeah, that's the thing. Like the thing that comes in, if you. Oh no, that's in your turn. Yeah, so it's mostly just going to be, I think, exclusively your turn. But still, a 5/5 indestructible every single turn is insanity. So yeah, tier 1. Exactly. Absolutely. Even if you only had 1 horse out of it, it's still a blocker. Good. That's a blocker for you right there. Yeah. That's a attacker that attacks with indestructible. So a blocker attack. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's you're winning the game. So 1-time life gaining is already enough. So beautiful. And then if they pacifism affect this creature, then you're still fine. Yeah. Actually, even without the horses, they're still indestructible. The ones that are remaining. It's still good. I mean. Without gaining any life, it's still a good card anyways. Still 5/5 for 5 is still fine. Yeah. It's incredible. Just play it. Next card is also incredible. Overwhelming Splendor for 6 and 2 white. So for 8 mana, it's expensive. It's hard to get there in limited. We're going to enchant a player, and then all creatures enchanted players control lose all abilities and have base power and toughness of 1. So there are 1/1s. And enchanted player can't activate abilities that aren't mana abilities or loyalty abilities. So they can't do anything anymore. They can't do this stuff. They can't do anything anymore. That's pretty much what it comes down. All their creatures are tiny. They can attack for 5 creatures. It's going to do 5 damage, and then you are basically going to tear them a new one, because it's insanity. Yeah. The question is, are you going to be able to get to it? Because in limited, being able to get to 5 is relatively reliable. 6 is going to take you maybe 2 turns longer. 7. 2 turns longer than that, and then 8 even 2 turns longer. So it's really, you're gonna want a little bit of ramp actually if you're gonna be playing this card, because
yeah, you're going to be mana flooded at some point in the game. The question is, how many turns later is that going to be? And of course, this thing doesn't have cycling, so early game, it's just going to be sitting there. However, if you do play it, you did just win the game.
Yeah, because even if you're losing on the board, you only have like 2 creatures and opponent has like 4 creatures. After that, after playing this at 8 mana, not doing anything else, you're still winning.
Yeah.
Then you like change the board into winning.
It's incredibly powerful. Just try and make sure, maybe combine this with green to see if you can get a little bit of ramp.
Because you don't want to play this without actually a way to get more land on the table.
Yeah, super sweet. Those are the mythics. Let's have a look at the conclusion for white. In conclusion, I got mixed feelings about white. You may have seen that the rares mythics cards are incredibly powerful, so they may lead you to believe that white is a very strong color. However, when we look at the commons and uncommons, we see that it kind of lackluster. Sure, they've got the flyers, which white usually does, and they've got the removal, which is both 2 things that are very solid, and that's why white is always an okay choice for a support color. However, in this set, I don't think it has the amount of common and uncommon solid strong cards to make me feel like this is one of the better colors. In fact, I think this is maybe one of the worst colors in this set. So yeah, use it as a filler, and of course, if you got those mythics and those rares, you're definitely going to be playing white, because they're just incredibly powerful compared to the mythics and rares in the other sets. But yeah, support color then.
Yeah, because like we said before, it's a lot of tier 3, and like they're okay, but they aren't that great, and that's the whole thing. It's like you said, good for a support color, but there are a couple cards that I'm excited for, but there's just a couple cards.
Yeah, it's also not, there's a ton of Eternalize that makes me feel, oh, it's super strong. There's one, you know, so it's not like you can go Eternalize strategy. No, there's one that I would really play.
Okay, yeah.
Just a lot of okay, in there, and a few of those really strong cards. So look at it, get your main color somewhere else, I think, and grab the mythics or the rares from here, and your evasion and your removal, and then you should have a pretty decent deck.
Exactly, that's mostly what I like to do with white, because it has some removal, it has some evasion, so that's always really nice.
Yeah, exactly. All right, then also don't forget to join us on Facebook and Twitter at Budget MTG Decks. We're going to be continuing the discussion. Let us know what you think about this. Do you agree with the evaluation? Do you disagree? Do you have anything else you want to share with us? We can have discussion right there on social media. Also, don't forget to subscribe to us here on YouTube for the most powerful decks and advice everyone can afford. And if you do subscribe, don't forget to hit that little bell button next to the subscribe button, because otherwise you won't be notified when the new video comes out. So if you want to know when the new video comes out, hit that little bell button. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'm David.
I'm Stefan.
And this was Budget MTG Decks.